Hello, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Always Bet on the House. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Chrishena Stanley, owner and managing broker of STK Property Group. And I have the pleasure and honor today of being here with Edgar, business coach and owner of Master the Network. Here at Always Bet on the House, we want to be all-encompassing and give as much information and guidance as we can. So today he's going to tell realtors, because quite often in this business, it doesn't come with a manual and we have no guidance. So many people go to the school of hard knocks and trial and error. So we're going to try to take some of that out by talking to Edgar about business coaching and how we can have a more structured way of doing our business and how we can learn to read cues and all that fun stuff.
Yes.
So thank you for being here, first of all.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to be here and, just to educate, right? End of the day, the goal is to educate and teach people a little bit about what we do and how can we help them streamline their process and how do you close more sales efficiently.
Right, because that's what we want to do. We want to help people get into homes and close more deals so we can enjoy our lives. So how did you get into, because you have a military background, is that correct?
Yeah, so I actually enlisted in the Marine Corps right after 9/11.
Oh, wow, okay, so that's serious business.
Yeah.
Marine Corps is no joke.
That's what they say.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yes.
So I enlisted right out of the Marine, right out of high school, joined the Marine Corps, and I knew exactly what I signed up for, right? So I ended up doing 4 deployments in 4 years. So most of my time was always overseas.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you've seen quite a bit.
Yeah, I for the people that do know me in the community, I've shared my story, and I'm very, very blessed to still be alive. I've had some close calls, and I've learned how to communicate and talk through the stuff that I went through to make sure, one, the story is going to resonate with someone. And if I can help impact another veteran's life to share their story, then we're making a difference in this world.
Absolutely. How amazing. I mean, there's nothing, I can't imagine another school, any school that you could go to that could teach you what you experienced during that time and that sort of education. So that's amazing. And I mean, I'm sure it made you compassionate, empathetic. You're a survivor. It makes you look, you think quick on your feet and everything. So fantastic. So how did you translate all that experience into going into business coaching?
So when I got to Vegas, the original thought was, hey, I want to come to Vegas. I want to have some fun, let loose and stay here for about 2 weeks.
Right.
And I've been here almost 19 years.
Oh my gosh. So 2 weeks turned into 19 years.
Yeah. And the one thing I really love about Vegas is Vegas it's such a small town business community, but we're a frontier state. We're a big state, right?
Yes, I love it.
And there's a lot of opportunity here. So my first 10 years here, I worked for the phone company and I learned a lot of the corporate structure. And in my 11th year, I got offered the buyout to, hey, we're going to pay you if you want to early retire. And that was kind of my injection to, hey, what does Edgar want to do next? Fast forward a few years, I got into the wealth management business, and that was the first successful exit that I ever had. I built up a really good book. I sold it. And the reason why I got out of wealth management is because when I would set the planning for business owners, they would never have the time to continue to meet. So that intrigued me. And it triggered in a good way, right? Like, hey, is it something that I said? Is it something that I did? Like, why can't we meet?
Right.
And we discovered a bigger problem that a lot of business owners, right? And if you're in real estate, you are a business owner because you're building your brand, you're building your book.
Right.
And
you are your brand.
Yeah.
Right.
So they were too busy on the day-to-day and never focused on working on the business, always in it.
Right.
So that's what intrigued me to get into the business coaching world.
Right. And that is a huge thing. And I'm guilty of that too, especially when you're a one-man show and, you get so focused on the day-to-day and just making things happen that you don't focus on really the future of the business, growing it and the big picture things. Because you just don't have time. You're so immersed in the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah. And right, as when you start off as an independent agent, right, you're under some brokerage and then you start building your own team as you start to get better.
Absolutely.
And the key is when you're developing your team, how do you train them to expedite the learning curves from all the school of hard knocks?
Right, exactly.
So the goal in what we do is to teach business owners how to have a business that can function without them having to be in the business every single day.
So kind of help them build a blueprint that they can easily, translate and give to someone else to so they can copy it, and you know that your business is going to be run smoothly.
100%.
They're going to keep the integrity of your business, because that was always my fear. I'm a broker, and my fear it always was bringing people on and growing, is that I'm very much, you know, focused on white glove service and the kind of service and the way I deal with clients. And, you know, I feel like, you know, their money's my money. I'm very careful about, you know, getting them the best opportunities,
Correct.
the best deals. So my concern was, you know, meeting people that have the same kind of integrity, having them be part of my business, because whomever I send out is a reflection of myself.
100%.
Yeah.
And I love that you bring up that point, right? Because as you build your network, anyone that you make an introduction to is a reflection of you, because
Yes.
it's like extending that olive branch.
Absolutely.
Which is how I came up with the name Master the Network.
I love it.
So it really encompasses who I am as a person and how I strategically built a network.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I learned a lot of this stuff from just the acquired knowledge and books that I've read over the years. One that stuck out a lot was a book by Dan Sullivan called Who Not How.
Okay.
And the key in that book is, how do you become the who to many people's how? So you become that person, that confidant, that advisor that people
The
come
solution.
to. Correct. And
Yes.
then you have the network strategically built out, so you know exactly, hey, I look at it like a giant puzzle piece, right?
Right.
Everyone that I come across is a giant puzzle, but what piece do they need? And do I
Right.
have that piece in my network to say, hey,
Right. So
here's,
that you can complete their puzzle.
whether it's me or somebody else, the
Right.
goal is to get the puzzle more complete than what they currently have it at.
I love that. I felt that a lot, because not only do I do resale, but I also have done flips. So now, because of my flip experience, I have a whole, you know, like a whole Rolodex of people, of resources, people who do construction, general
Right.
contractors, plumbers, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So as you grow in that, then it actually helps you even in the resale business, because then you can become, you know, a resource to refer to somebody like, okay, you can buy this house, and if it needs renovations, I can help you with that. You
Yep.
know, it doesn't become so burdensome.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And if you become very, very strategic about it, when clients start calling you back saying, hey, do you still have that GC?
Right.
We want some work done on the house. And that can prompt you to ask some more clarifying questions.
Right.
Because you want to position yourself as, hey, are we needing the
wanna
GC?
sell.
Correct. 100%. If they're looking to sell, hey,
Right.
by when are you know, what specifically do you need the contractor for? And if you are looking to sell, remember, I helped you with this house, I can help you with the next house. Plus, we can also help you sell this one.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
So now you've closed like 5 deals.
Correct.
Right. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. And it's like, from what you said, right, to echo what you said, is it's just asking better questions, trying
Right.
to understand. So what I love about just sales, like, how do you master the sales process? As a kid, our favorite word to ask our parents was why.
Right.
So if we can understand other people's why, but we ask it in a very strategic way, we can get a lot of information, position yourself as the expert, and that's why they always come back to you.
Fabulous. So in your business coaching, you kind of you give them the tools to figure out how to ask the why without saying why.
Yeah. Well, you got to think about it. When you're building a business, there are key foundational things that you need to build, right? So we're in real estate, we're talking about real estate.
Right.
If you build a house, no matter how big you build this house with no foundation, what's going to happen to that
It's going
house?
to crumble. You
So-
can't build a house with no foundation.
So when you're building your business, a lot of people come up with great ideas and they take off and they
Right.
never did the foundational work.
Right, because you can always, with a strong foundation, you can always come back and grow from there.
Correct.
Right? You've got to have processes in place,
100%.
right, that are easily, you know, that you can copy them and everything. So you help people with the foundation and then processes and
Yep.
everything.
So-
See, that's like, I need you.
Yeah, so that we call them pillars to success, right? So
Right.
what are the pillars to success? And one of them is the sales process, right?
Right.
What does that sales process look like? I know, like in my process, I have 14 steps.
Okay.
So it's understanding each step.
Right.
But there are some core key pieces, and I'll get into it here shortly, but like looking at the screen is like, what are the core elements of an effective sales process, right? And we've learned to train our clients like, hey, there's typically 8 steps in the sales cycle.
Right.
But what does it look like from the moment you meet the client all
The way.
to the end, right?
Right.
To get to the finish line. a few months back, I had a mastermind and I was talking about customer service versus client experience.
Right.
Customer service is a retroactive, so something has to happen in order for us to react.
Right.
When the client experience, you be more proactive, so you don't have to.
Right. See, I like proactive rather than reactive.
So how do you, like you talked about, right? I want to train my team, my agents, my realtors with white glove service. That's client experience. Right. If they remember that experience, like what prompts us to go to certain restaurants? It's the experience, not necessarily.
Always.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So
even more than the food, right?
So the way they make you feel, and if you think about how people make decisions, 80% of decisions are based on emotion. Right. 20% off of logic.
Right. So it is that's like Chick-fil-A is such a success because people love the customer service. The fact that they always greet you and they're always kind.
Correct.
And it makes you feel great inside because we all want to be happy and feel great, right?
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. Another great example of that, like, and I'm not, I don't get sponsored by them, but if you think of like the Dutch Bros, right? There's so many different coffee shops, but why do they always have a massive car line? Right. And it's because of how they treat people.
Right. It makes a huge difference.
1,000%.
People are willing to wait if you make them feel good.
Yes.
100%. And it's true. It's true. I love that. So you go through all this in the business coaching. You teach them how to build a platform.
Correct.
And the pillars of the sales process and also how to give a great client experience.
Yep.
And how about also, making sure that, client retention, that they remember you, they always come back to you. So it's not just a one-off, but it's like, a client for a lifetime. Because some of my clients I've had, from their first place to then when they, get married and have a family and all of that. And I love it because they become part of your family.
Yeah. And you're watching them grow, right?
Yes,
like you're seeing their successes
lovely.
in life and your success comes from their success, right?
Absolutely.
So making sure they're making the right buying decisions, making sure they're making the right investments. Because at the end of the day, you're helping them live within their means. Because a lot of us, let's face it, right?
That's the American. Yeah, don't live with the American. The American dream is pushing live over your means, which gets us in trouble.
Yeah, and that's why we have such a bad homeless population, right? Is because most Americans are one paycheck away from homelessness. Right. So how do you solve that? And the way is making sure that we are making the right decisions. Just like in business, I've worked with so many business owners and I've learned. I have a wealth management background, so one of the first things we do in our process when I meet a client and the value that I bring is I immediately do a financial audit. Right. And that prompts so many questions that typically they don't have the answers to. And you think finance is the heartbeat of any business. Correct. So if you don't understand the heartbeat of your business,
you might have a heart attack.
Right. Right. So meaning that's why so many doors are closed, right? That's how we have, like on the commercial side, that's why we have so many for lease options out there. Right. Because the turnover is so high because they don't, There's no foundation. And the sales process is just one aspect of it. You think about how do I market? Who's my target audience? Do clients do like the client avatar exercise? And if they don't know what that means, you should look it up. Right. Because it helps you identify. You talk about the sales pitch, the client avatar exercise will help you fine tune exactly who your client is, how to find them, typically where they hang out, what their average age is, what their average income is. So it goes really far in depth. And that's one of the first things that I add value to people is like, hey, go do the client avatar exercise. Right. So you can know who you're targeting exactly. So you have some direction. Correct. Because quite often people don't, Yeah. And you have to really be specific about what you're doing. Yeah. So if you're thinking about the different pillars in business, foundation, that's when you're learning, like you're looking on how do I distribute my product? How do I deliver my product? How do I make sure it's repeatable so that way the team underneath me knows how to execute at my standard. Right. And we're always it's this continued level of service. Yep. And then learning the financial management. Like that's one of the other key pillars. So you got those four and then you move up to the next pillar. So each pillar has a specific number of things that you have to learn and implement, right? KPIs. For those that don't know what KPIs are, your key performance indicators. Right. What are your key performance activities? What are your key performance behaviors? Right. So there's a lot of in-depth stuff that we do with people to help, or like business owners to help them understand at the end of the day, how do we grow a sustainable business? Right. So a question I like to ask people is like, hey, if we took a 6-month sabbatical, how would your business do? Right. And most people would say,
Not very well.
I can't afford to do that because
Right.
the business would not function without me. So,
Right.
so how do we help you build a functionable business,
But that you can leave on cruise control.
not a job that you bought?
Right. Absolutely. Oh, see, that's brilliant. That's brilliant because I think the goal that every business owner has is to not have to be there day to day.
Correct.
But unfortunately, like you said, if we don't build a platform, and then everything has to be a measurable indicator so that you can look back and see how you did and then see how you're improving.
Yes.
Which is hard, for people that don't have that kind of guidance. It's hard to do that, So you're just going willy-nilly hoping that things get better.
Yeah. And any client that we work with, one thing I've learned is I always want my people that are in the pipeline to become clients to
Right.
get exposed to my clients.
Oh, I love that. So you bring those people together. So
Yeah.
that's a network within itself.
Correct.
So you guys help each other grow.
Yeah, in the masterminds. So I run a monthly mastermind, and that's like a non-negotiable for my clients. They have to attend, right?
Right.
Because it's 4 hours of them learning more stuff that they didn't learn in business, or it's like them getting their MBA in business.
Fabulous.
So
yeah.
at the mastermind, when I bring in a prospect or a potential client, they start to meet the other business owners. And I always tell them, hey, if you're going to hire a coach, go make sure you find the right one that suits you.
Right.
One thing I want you to do is when you're interviewing someone, basically interviewing a potential business coach or business consultant, ask them to expose you to their clients. Because
Right,
if they
yeah.
don't, that's a red flag.
Right.
And
I agree.
Why are they hiding
Why would
it?
you be hiding your
Yeah.
clients? Right. Because the whole point is you're trying to help me grow my business.
Correct.
So that's the easiest. That's would be the most convenient step, right? To introduce me to other clients. I love that. I never even thought about that because I've spoken to some business coach and I have done business coaching, and I never was introduced to other clients.
Yeah. And that helps you expand your network, right? Because you
Absolutely.
never know who's in that room or who in that room who they know.
Right.
We talked about Vegas being a big city, small town feel.
Right. I always say it's small town with big amenities.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Oh, yeah. In this city, I feel like we're 1 degree from separation.
I 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like, seriously.
Yeah. So let's dive in a little bit about what we're talking about. So understanding the sales cycle clearly, what does that typically look like, right? And do most business owners or real estate agents know what their sales cycle look like?
Right.
Like how long does it take basically from start to close, right? And then the first thing they got to do is what? Prospect, right?
Always.
Understand who is my client. Then the next step is the qualification. So you're going through this process with this potential home buyer or in business, a potential client.
Right.
So what does the qualification process look like for most
Right.
business owners? And remember, if you're in real estate, you're in business, right? You have a business, you're building your brand, you are the brand. So what does that process look like? And at the end of the day, what you're talking about is how are you treating them with the client experience?
Exactly.
After you qualify, what's the need, right? What's the discovery process look like? What are the key questions you should be asking that typically we don't ask?
Right.
So one of the things that we like to do is understand people's sales process and help them like sharpen it, right?
Yes.
We want iron sharpens iron.
Streamline it, yeah.
So we not only do we want to streamline it, but we want to get very specific.
Okay.
Because a lot of people ask broad and general questions, right?
Right.
When you, as a realtor, I'm sure you understand, whenever you go networking, what's the one question that everybody asks you? You get asked it over and over and over.
That's probably completely obvious. I was going to say, what do you do?
100%, right?
Oh, okay.
So what do you do? How memorable is that?
Not memorable at all.
Right? So one question that I've learned to ask is, hey, what are you most excited about this year?
I love that because
And-
that will give you an indicator of who you're talking to, like what makes them tick, what's exciting.
Yeah, so by asking better questions and in discovery, we help people sharpen their questions.
I love
so
that.
they're very specific, but they're open-ended to pull more information
Out. Yes. And then you really, that's a much better indicator. What are you excited about? You know, because not only you're going to their happy place, but then you can find out what their passion is.
Correct.
I love that.
Yeah. So
oh my God.
So then you're connecting with them on a whole different level, which makes you memorable.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
moving on to the next
Okay.
step, like the presentation or demonstration, meaning what problem are you trying to solve? And how are you going to present your solution to this client, right? At the end of the day, what we're trying to solve is their puzzle. Right. So through our product or through our service, what is it and how do we come into play? Or if it's not me, I talked about it earlier, right? Who in the network, what puzzle piece is the one that I need to insert?
Right.
So that way they come back.
Absolutely.
Right. Timing is everything.
Yes. Yep.
But you also, I gotta identify it. And then going on to the next step, it's what's the lifetime value of this client, or what's their budget to understand what needs to move them.
Right.
And that's where you start asking the emotional questions, right? You start training your team, you start training, or we train our clients, more of the 80% emotion, 20% logic. So our questions shift. I explain it to them, it's like an onion. You got to peel layer by layer to get to the core, right? Once you get to the core, you hit something that strikes a nerve, which helps them make the decision.
Absolutely.
So you're basically what's it saying? You can lead a horse to water,
but you can't make him drink.
But we can make him very thirsty by asking him really tough questions.
Right. That's absolutely true, because I think that's a place where a lot of broker, realtors, agents go, like, they feel uncomfortable because people seem so guarded. But if you learn how to approach those questions in a really playful or comfortable way where they don't feel like they're just being interrogated, you can gain a lot of information.
Yeah, and in that process, you got to role play with them, like train them to do it over and over, so that way the script doesn't feel like a script. It feels more natural. It feels more like them.
Absolutely.
And it helps you develop them to say, okay, we're going to work together. I want to understand how you're going to ask the question. If I say this, what are the objections, which leads to the next one?
Yes.
How do you handle the objections, right? What are the most common objections that you typically get, and how do you handle them?
Absolutely.
So we'll train people how to handle objections. Same question, 3 different ways.
Right, without getting discouraged. Because quite often what people say is not what they mean.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sometimes they mean the complete opposite.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I found that a lot.
Yeah. So and the one thing that we hate rejection.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that rejection to overcome it in a different way?
Right, and not get visibly discouraged or defeated. Because quite often that could be your way. If you know how to handle an objection, that could be your way to make it really happen. To close that deal.
In the objection handling, what I've learned in my wealth management years, and I incorporated into the business coaching, is active listening, right? When you ask someone a question, they're typically going to say something, but if you hang on to the last 3 words of what they said, you can ask them to elaborate.
Yes.
And that's how you start peeling back that onion. Hey, look, I understand you said this was a little bit out of your budget. When you say out of your budget, can you help me understand
what that means? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because out of budget to you is something...
Right, because things are so relative, right?
Correct. Yeah. So then you start peeling that onion back. Well, it's just a little bit out of my budget because it's too expensive. Okay, when you say expensive, walk me through what that means.
Absolutely.
So there's different ways to pull it out. And then finally you get to hey, it's $300 more than what I wanted to pay.
Right. So it's not as big of an animal that we thought it was.
But you in your head, you're thinking, man,
we can't overcome this.
Correct.
Right.
But then you help them see the emotional side, like, hey, why is this neighborhood so important to you?
Right.
Why specifically this neighborhood? And then you find out key things that are going to help them save money versus hey, if you're living on this side of town versus where you are here, gas-wise, what does that save you? So if we incorporate that into...
yes. And then you can do big picture stuff to say, okay, if you take, because it's going to save you a little bit here or there, and then really guide them through the fact that $300 isn't even an issue.
And now you help them paint the picture.
Boom.
And now you got them back on the hook.
Yes,
right?
I love that's genius. So
different ways to tie in the emotion through objective handling. So that's another part of figuring out what the customer is looking for and how do you ask the better questions. Right. Then we close the sale.
Yay!
Right?
That's everybody's happy time.
Yeah, that's it, everybody. For me, I've always told people, closing the sale is what everyone wants to do.
Right.
In my industry, I like calling it enrolling the client versus closing the client, right? I feel like the word enrollment means we're going to
it's a long-term relationship, because that's what you want ultimately. You don't want just one-offs. You want to build a long-term relationship with this person.
They are a lifetime client,
absolutely,
right? So if you embark on a journey with them, you're going to, like you talked about, you've helped people buy their first house, right? They bought a condo, then they got married, then they get a house.
Kids.
Yeah.
Right.
So they keep purchasing.
Evolving.
Yeah. And you're watching them grow. Just like we work with our clients, it's going to be a lifelong journey. Even though they graduate from the program eventually, our goal is to get them to the point where they don't need us anymore, because they built a sustainable business and now they're buying other businesses and using the same core concepts that we taught them,
which is great,
on the new business. So now they're becoming venture capitalists, right? Now that we've taught them how to become true owners, where now they're buying other businesses, implementing the same principles, and they already have the blueprint.
And you're seeing this great evolution.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Finally, we always got to follow up. And how do you retain the client, right? So this is what a true sales cycle looks like. Right. And then it's just teaching them each step and how to handle each step. There's different ways to figure out. If we throw out marketing, right? Right. Marketing, you're casting a wide net.
Right.
But who are you specifically targeting, and how are you measuring that marketing campaign to make sure are we
successful?
Are we wasting money?
Right.
Because
is this working?
Marketing should be an investment. If you've got KPIs behind it, you're tracking the measurements, and if it's working, cast another one to a different audience. Let's see how that works.
Right. Yeah. Because you should always be able to figure out your return on investment for all of your marketing. Right. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's a test and measure game. Right. I've told people business, I figured out it was 2 things, but after going through my NLP training, I've learned it's 3 things. Okay. Right. So business, there's no secret sauce to business, but there's 3 things that if you get really good at,
it's a special sauce.
You'll be very successful. And it doesn't matter what the business is. It's people, numbers, and mindset.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those are 3 critical. Yeah, people, numbers, and mindset.
Yeah, so if you can master those 3 things, you can be successful in any business.
Isn't that fabulous?
Yeah.
I love it. This is really important because especially in our business, one, it can be very, lonesome because everybody looks at each other as competition, even if they work in different neighborhoods or whatever. It doesn't have the sense of community as you have going into another business where you have an office and they see each other every day and they're just, working as one team. So that's why it's even more important to have a business coach and someone to help you build a platform and build structure. Because what I found being in this business now for like over 18 years is that, it's not as easy to get together and share information.
Correct.
And while if you're with a brokerage like Coldwell Banker or those that do offer some sort of training, it's really, and I would say they don't have great training, but it's really not tailored to your business and helping you build a platform where you can have a blueprint specifically for your business that's repeatable and makes you feel like, okay, every year is going to be some success, somewhat of a success. Yeah. So it's just incredibly, this is a game changer.
Yes.
Especially in our business. And I think, too few of us have this, expertise and coaching is amazing. I suggest everybody call Edgar today, get a business coach so you can be successful. The next year may be a little bit rough. Right. Yeah. But we can make it through if we have processes, if we have things that are measurable, and that way we feel, and then also it takes a lot of stress out of it. Yeah. Because you can look at things and say, this is what's working, this is not what's not working. Correct. This is where I need to cut back because it's not successful, but I can put more money into this. And then you don't feel like you're just always just throwing things out there, blindly. Yep. And then you don't know, like, you feel lost half the time.
Yeah. You get to look back at the data, right? Because data is everything, right? I talked about people and numbers. Numbers is data.
Numbers are huge.
As we onboard a new client, we start immediately recording data. And as they start to grow over the cycle, right? And a year from today, we look back like, hey, how did you do in Q1? How did you do in Q2? Right. And what is Q1 telling us this year, right? So then we can really pivot and make changes accordingly to what the market's looking for, not what we want.
I love it.
Because at the end of the day, when you look at, so me being a Marine, I love using military terms. So when you're trying to hit a target, we always have a bullseye that we want to hit.
Gotcha.
But the real bullseye that we need to be zeroing in on is the client on what they want. Right. And if we hit their bullseye every single time, guess whose bullseye we're hitting?
Yeah, because they love you. Yeah. Right.
So,
absolutely.
So active listening helps you understand what they want.
What they really want. Yeah. Right. I love it. Yeah. Thank you, Edgar, for being here. This is so amazing. So I definitely, once we wrap, I want you to give us the information where people can reach you, because this is invaluable. This is priceless. It's a total game changer. And having this kind of expertise and training that Edgar can provide can literally, your business can go gangbusters. You can make 10 times more than what you're making if you don't have this kind of structure, because structure is everything. Yeah. People, numbers, mindset.
Yep.
People, numbers, mindset.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So now, as we're wrapping, and thank you for all this really incredible and valuable information. As we're wrapping, usually we get a fun fact. What is your fun fact?
Ooh. So fun fact, I would say a little passion of mine, right, is ending veteran homelessness, right? How do we solve to end it? And not only end it, but like, how do we empower veterans to do better?
Right. Because I think no veteran should be homeless.
Yeah.
After making that sacrifice for our country.
Yeah. And in that, it's sitting with a lot of roundtables, sitting with the right organizations, and how do we have unity with community?
Right.
To be able to solve for that bigger picture. And yeah, it's a massive problem to solve, but I know it's possible.
Well, with people like you making an effort and caring, yes, unity with community. I mean, everything is about community.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it is. Most of the most happiest countries are countries where they still have a real sense of community. They get together, they look out for one another, and that makes you feel safe. So yes, I agree. Unity with community.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What a beautiful fun fact, and that's something to be very passionate about. And I think you are the man to make it happen. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it'll definitely take the whole community to make it happen.
Yes, but you're going to bring us all together.
Yes.
So that we can actually do it.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of talk about it, we're going to do it.
That's right. One step at a time.
One step at a time. Absolutely. You have to eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, thank you, Edgar. Can you tell all of our audience how to find you and how to make you their business coach so they can become successful people out in this world?
Of course. So our website's probably our main. If you go to www.masterthenetwork.com, I'm also on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram.
Okay.
So it's everything Master the Network, right? So
okay, fabulous.
And you can also look me up on Google, it'll pop up.
Okay, fabulous. So Master the Network, and you will find Edgar, and you can become successful as well. And you can always find us at Always Bet on the House. Thank you so much, and I hope you got some really great information. I certainly did. And just make your business more successful, and unity with community. Let's get out there and love each other and help each other and make this world a better place. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.